What's going on, everybody? I'm Winston A. Marshall, aka the Swaggy Blurred, and this is my spoiler review for Captain America Brave New World. Now, if this is your first time here, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and be sure to throw a thumbs up on this if you enjoy the content, man. You know, I put out, first of all, as you can see, I'm still in the midst of unpacking from moving. We got a lot of work to do here, but it's time to get back on that train, man. So I'm happy to bring more content to you. But I wanted to say, I'm going to cover two main things here. Obviously, the first is the spoiler review for this movie, and my true full-out thoughts on everything that was going on. And then also for those that saw my out of the theater reaction, there was a fight going on in the theater. I'm actually going to start with that because that's what had me laughing. I was pissed at first, but eventually I started dying laughing. So for those that were asking, yo, you know, there was a family fight going on. So I'm sitting in a Dolby AMC. I'm kind of near the back on that like upper row or whatever. And I want to say we're in the middle of the scene where Sam and Danny, so minor spoiler alert here. I mean, this whole thing is a spoiler. What the fuck am I talking about? Where Sam and Danny are at that base, similar to when Steve and Natasha were, and they meet the leader, and you know they're about to get into that fight or whatever. And all of a sudden, I can't hear half the things the leader is saying because there's just, I'm tired of your shit, boy.
You want a piece of me? That's just about enough for you.
And it's this family of white people, and it is a father and a daughter and her boyfriend, who I guess at this point, because he's calling him son a lot, so maybe he's been around for a minute. And he's like, I'm tired of your shit, you ain't gonna talk to me. Dad, stop it.
Daddy, I love him!
No, you ain't gonna talk to me that way, motherfucker. Like back and forth. And they're up and they're looking like they're about to throw hands to the point where all of a sudden the daughter is doing what she can to try and keep them away from each other. You had the mom over here with her hand, like her face in her hands like this. You had AMC coming up. Everybody's like, what the fuck are you? Take this shit outside. I was 2 seconds away from being like, if y'all both don't shut the fuck up, I swear to God.
Hey, yo! Shut the fuck up!
But at that point, you know, it's either look at what the hideous design of the leader is or pay attention to this. And so I'm fully just over here watching this fight going on for a minute before eventually the AMC usher takes the dad out, and he eventually comes back like some 20 or 30 minutes later and calm the fuck down. Clearly something got said. I don't know what it was. Maybe the son or the boyfriend, the son-in-law / boyfriend, was out here talking about, you don't understand these black problems. These white people, by the way, you don't understand these black problems because just like you don't understand Kendrick Lamar at the motherfucking halftime show.
You understand what he's saying? Nope. Why don't they have words at the bottom so that you can understand what he's saying?
Anyway, so let me get to the actual, my review and my thoughts on the movie, because obviously I talked about a decent amount of it during Capes and Cows, which you can go and watch. Should be a card up here somewhere, but you can go and check out the Capes and Cows episode to hear some of that. But essentially what a lot of my issues was this idea that we had a bunch of kind of half steps or things that were oversteps that happened throughout the movie. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff. Let me start with the good. I genuinely thought that a majority of the acting in the movie was actually very well done. Obviously, you know, Anthony Mackie, for him being the star of this movie, for him really being able to take Captain America out for a spin, I thought he honestly did a very good job. And I'm glad to see that he had that opportunity and that he's doing well. And, you know, hopefully Captain America gets a chance to continue to go forward. Sam's Captain America continues to go forward. I thought Harrison Ford was having a great time. It seemed very clear. This is some of the most lively stuff I've seen him doing in a long time. So I really enjoyed what he was doing. Honestly, I didn't even hate Tim Blake Nelson's acting. I thought his acting was great. Giancarlo obviously was great. I'll talk about the leader a little bit later though. My MVP by far is Carl Lumley. For those that don't know, that is one of my best friends in the whole world's dad. So I was already going to be a little biased, but genuinely, Carl killed it. Isaiah Bradley was my MVP the same way he was in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I just think that Carl is such a fantastic actor and brings such a realistic nuance to all of his performances. If you watched Alias, The Color of Friendship, like he's been all over the place, just killing it for years. He was the voice of John Jones, aka the Martian Manhunter, in the Justice League cartoon back in the 2000s.
We first encountered them 1,000 of your Earth years ago.
So I thought Carl was just fantastic. I know it's going to sound a little biased, but show me who acted better in the movie, honestly. Some other major positives. I loved that we started to talk about various situations, like the idea of Sam straight up saying, like, everything I do is based under scrutiny, and I feel like I have all the weight of the world on my shoulders and all that kind of stuff. I think that all of that was expertly done as far as getting the conversation started and even acknowledging any of that. I also loved the action set pieces. I thought they were very, very good. I thought, the vast majority of the fights were spot on. Other than that, the fact that adamantium is real now. We finally acknowledge a Celestial. He's been sitting in the ocean since, November of 2022? And we haven't even acknowledged that motherfucker until now, so that's great that we finally did that, and I feel like you really set some stuff up. I love that the Red Hulk is finally around. I think that that's a really great thing. We got another Hulk that is like having to deal with rage, and even having that story arc of Ross, now that he realizes he's a monster, clearly starting to have some empathy for Bruce all of a sudden, and then realizing what's going on. So I thought that there was a lot of good stuff there. And then on top of that, man, if you look at just like the political sphere now, I know that Anthony Mackie's like, I don't even want to talk about that, man. Which I love Anthony Mackie as an actor. I sometimes I go back and forth with some of his responses to stuff, but in this particular case, you can't sit here and deny like it doesn't mirror some of the things as far as the current political climate. I understand that when the movie was being written and created is different than when the times we're in right now, but ironically, a lot of that stuff lined up. So I think that there's a lot of stuff that you could look at as far as all of that goes that was done well. And then finally, again, staying a little bit in the political sphere of things, obviously there is a lot of tension with the idea of Sabra. If you, look at who the character was in the comics, and then you look at, again, the political climate that we're in right now with everything going on in Gaza right now, I understand why people would be upset, and I think this was a tactful way to not fully strip the character of their identity, but to also not draw more attention or focus on, because Sabra tends to be very proudly Israeli and like out here massacring people. Like there's a very famous comic about the Hulk being like, yo, you're out of control, bro. So I think this was a very tactful way to let the character keep their history, not to focus on anything like that, and give it kind of a new path as far as that goes. So I know there are people that are going to boycott this no matter what. I get it. That's your prerogative. You're allowed to do that, things like that. But I just thought that was a very tasteful way to deal with things. Now let me talk about why I really had a lot of hesitation with the movie, and why I said on Capes and Cows, if you put the MCU into thirds, for me it is the king of the third tier, honestly. As far as, like, again, all of those positives that I said, there are just drawbacks that it took me out of it. So one of the first ones that I noticed immediately, this movie is overscored. Very early on, you have a situation where we're kind of getting in the midst of things, and the scoring is overpowering what's happening in the moment. Even if a moment is like done, I watch a shit ton of Law & Order and Law & Order SVU and all that. I love those shows. There's always going to be a lot of scoring, like, and like the ominous kind of tone. It took that to an nth degree and went on longer than it needed to at times, where then it took me out of it, because I'm like, stop trying to force feed me what I'm supposed to feel. Scoring is supposed to be that beautiful accent, the garnish, the condiment on a dish, and not supposed to be the main focus. And at times it felt like the scoring was more important than what was actually happening. It should be a crescendo. It should be the thing that causes the tears to fall or the anger to build or things like that, not be the center. It is the backup singer, not the lead singer. And that was the problem, is that it felt like at times the scoring became the lead singer of this movie. That is a massive thing that was a problem for me, because it took me out of the film. Like that is why when people were like, "Oh, I can't believe you didn't like it," that was something that was pretty major that genuinely took me out of it sometimes. There's movies that where you just, the whole idea of suspending disbelief and things like that, it did not do that for me at times. So that's a major element that was there. As far as like a lot of the character design stuff, the leader was awful. I'm sorry. Like knowing what the leader looks like in comics, I understand that stuff can be kind of wonky and you're going to take your own kind of design and do what you want. But if we're going to be able to actually make the Hulk out here, to not make the leader just be what the leader normally looks like, just the big ass green head, tuft of hair, whatever. And he could still be mad about being a freak and being used, but I just didn't love the design, and again took me out of it because it just looked goofy. Again, I get it, things are going to be what it is. Maybe I'm being a little harsh on that stuff, but every time I saw him I was like, okay, I guess. The kind of random appearance of just Giancarlo and the idea of doing the Serpent Society and kind of half tipping your hat, that kind of leads me to another major thing that was bothering me. Is it felt like this was really a Vegas buffet of ideas and motivations and things that were going on that kind of hodgepodge together into a meal. Or as the ladies love to say, it felt like a girl dinner. There was nothing to it that was consistent. It was like, I want a little bit of that and I'm gonna take one of these and that thing, which for dinner, that's fine. For a buffet, that's fine. For a movie, you want something kind of cohesive. And I think where that comes into play is specifically the idea of, you got to remember, this movie has been made, remade, written, rewritten, shot, reshot a lot. Like, it originally wrapped principal photography in 2023 before the strike, but then, the word was that it didn't do well in screening, so then they went back and had months more of shooting after the strike. Either stuff that was written was shot during part of the strike, and we know that just because of, there's a lot of stories of stuff that was happening down in Atlanta and things like that. Nothing that was against guild rules or anything, but that was going on. But then this constant reshoots happen. Not gonna say that that's not like a thing, but it just seems like this thing has evolved multiple times. Its date got pushed multiple times. There was just a lot of stuff that was going on top of the fact that Christian over on Capes and Cows had mentioned that this feels like a longer episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I agree with that. I do think it was a longer episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but because I got that show, and that allowed me to dive deeper into certain ideas and themes and stuff like that, sometimes this felt a little hollow because of the hodgepodge. I think the thing about a movie is you search one or two main themes or like plot points or thing, like you've got an A and a B and sometimes a C plot. In this, it felt like there was an A through F of where Sam is feeling, everything going on with Isaiah, Danny wanting to be a part of things, the Serpent Society and whether or not that's a thing, the leader and how he's feeling about stuff. There was just a lot of just little things here and there, and again, it feels because it was just disjointed, which then fell through with some of the editing, how some of the stuff went down. The stuff with the Celestials, here comes Bucky out of nowhere. Like, there was just too many threads being pulled, and I think it's because the movie has had to evolve so many different times. Speaking of, Joaquin Torres, of Danny Ramirez, I do enjoy him as an actor, but I really did not like that character. I don't think it felt a lot more natural in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This one, they felt like they were trying to ham up him being the sidekick and the comic relief. Reminded me a lot of Chris O'Donnell in, not even Batman Forever, partially that, but like Batman and Robin. It felt very wonky partner. No, man, you're not doing it. Like, it was a lot, and that sucks because I liked what they were doing in the show. It wasn't as over the head with it, and I think that Danny is a very good actor, so this just didn't feel like a good fit as to how he was directed in this, or maybe how he was written, wherever you want to kind of put that there. And then just like random motivations. I don't think it is a bad thing that Ross wants to, reprove himself to Betty. And that was kind of one of his driving forces. But as far as a lot of this goes, there were just motivations that didn't always fit. And I think they did a good job trying to balance old Ross with new Ross, but it didn't quite go there. And I think one of the things that really hamstrung this and made it worse, in the in the comics, you have a situation where it's less of an accident. You know, Ross decides because he's always been trying to capture the Hulk, less for like a safety element that's part of it, but more because, you know, they were trying to make a super soldier serum, and he's, you know, I want my properties and blah blah blah. You know, that's how they ended up making the Abomination, or my intellectual properties, excuse me. But this idea that because of marketing, we already knew that this Red Hulk fight was coming. We spent so much time trying to build up to that. If I didn't already know it because of the trailers that is what was going on, I think this would have been a better idea. You took away the surprise of the powder keg and trying to see what's coming. You told us from jump, and that took a lot of the wind out of the sail. So sometimes it's not even that the movie itself is a problem, but the marketing is a part of the movie itself. It literally hamstrung the movie because I knew too much. You showed a lot of the best parts. You showed the major climax. I may not have necessarily known specifically how we got there, but especially for somebody that's been looking forward to this, that's in this space, I knew the leader was in it. The leader was clearly behind it the whole time. And I knew that the Hulk was coming because of the trailer, so he was just gonna push buttons until it happened. That sucks. If this is supposed to be a political spy thriller type situation, you need the surprise. You took the surprise away. And even knowing with the comics, hey, it's Thaddeus Ross, so he's eventually... There's a difference between, I know that Thaddeus Ross at some point becomes the Red Hulk, versus I know for a fact in this movie for the first time he's going to be the Red Hulk. And I get that that's part of what you tried to do to market the movie, and I think that that's what makes me sad, is there was more of a focus on marketing Hulk and Red Hulk, and even making him kind of more the main character of this movie than Captain America himself. Obviously, Sam got more screen time. Anthony got more screen time than Harrison, than Thaddeus Ross. But because that was where the marketing went, and you could even see with the poster in China of like, yeah, you kept Captain America on the front of it, but you went by having, Red Hulk fighting against him, and I love the poster design, but there's been a notorious thing in China of not trying to put black people at the center of whatever, versus like the American one. Yeah, you see the Red Hulk's fist punching the shield, but it's Sam. He is the one at the center of it. But again, that still goes to show this is more about Red Hulk, and even people having the questions, how is Captain America going to survive a fight against him and things like that. It's just, that was my issue. This did not really focus on the main character. You gave me too much away at the beginning. You put all of that together, and I think collectively what the problem is, I went in with such high hopes because I wanted this film to just do exceptionally well, that by the time I got in and realized I've seen most of the really like super dope parts of it, there are some things that are kind of like hurting this whole situation. And then you end up in a scenario where I'm already like 3 steps ahead every single time. And not even just because I'm a comic fan, but just because of what I had seen prior to all this and whatnot. That all just took it down for me. So I think if I was maybe more in the dark, and that again is on the trailers more than anything, because people, the ones you've shown on TV and everything have already given away a lot. If you had kind of done that, maybe focused on just 1 or 2 main elements, maybe the adamantium type situation, like Ross and Bradley, and just leave it at that instead of all the extra stuff that kind of spiraled out. I think if you had done all of that, you work on the scoring stuff, it would have been higher for me. But with that being said, I gotta give this like a 2.5 out of 5, a 5 out of 10. It's right at about a 50% for me. Again, I don't think that this is a bad movie, but I don't think that it's necessarily a good one. It has great moments, like 1 or 2. It has a number of good ones, but there's a lot just dragging it down personally for me. But that's my thoughts on the movie. I find it very funny that there were some people in my out of the theater reaction, don't believe the racist Griff. Bitch, anybody that said that about me, you clearly ain't never been on this channel for real, or you want to believe some stupid false ass motherfucking narrative. Go watch any episodes of Blurs in the Hood. Go watch stuff on this channel, period. That has never been anything that I've fucking done. So that shit legitimately made me laugh when I read that. Those are my very real reasons why this movie wasn't necessarily my favorite, but I want to know what you think. I've seen a lot of people on the Out of Theater reaction said you went and you loved it, that you thought it was great. I love that for you. That actually makes me really happy that you feel that way, because truthfully, both as a black man, but as somebody that loves the MCU, I want this movie to do well for a multitude of reasons. I just couldn't give it that full stamp of approval. But let me know, what are the specific things about the movie that you loved? Was it fight scenes? Was it story points? Did you like the look of the leader? That's your prerogative. I thought it looked wonky as fuck. But let me know what you think, man. Let me know down in those comments. And as I mentioned before, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and throw a thumbs up on this video, man. Again, I'm all about the conversation, getting in it, talking about what it is. So let me know what you think. Please be sure to check out one of these other 2 videos that popped up right here, man, and come on back for more content I got coming out on the channel. Again, I gotta finish unpacking all this shit and the rest of the apartment, good lord. But I will be sure to keep the content coming. So with that, I'm gonna get out of here, man. Y'all stay safe, have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I'll see you on the flip, man. Peace.